All right, Keith, some big news here in the United States, obviously, in the last week with Donald Trump winning the election. Could this election result actually have an impact on Friedkin's takeover at Everton?
Well, actually, that's something I've been looking at and was thinking about during the whole process. And from all the checks I've done, it does appear that Friedkin's made contributions to the Republican Party over a period of time. So it seems that's sort of taken care of in terms of his political affiliations. And then the thoughts go to, there's been talk of Trump and tariffs and all sorts of things in trade, and how will he view the sports industry? And I still believe with the World Cup coming up in the States very soon, that certainly I don't think that any American owners will be discouraged from buying into clubs overseas. I think it will just help increase the power of America. And in fact, it may even go to the stage which has been talked about for a long time now, about getting a majority of American owners in the Premier League. And once you get to 15, 16, then you've got the votes to start pushing things through. And so there may even be, that may be a position that you look at the bigger picture, then Friedkin could be in a good position. So overall, I think actually the Trump result is a positive for Friedkin.
And, more on Friedkin, former Roma CEO Lina Suluku and Fulham's Alistair McIntosh linked with that CEO role at Everton. Are those potentially good appointments for Dan Friedkin?
Look, they're both very experienced CEOs. I know Lena did well previously. I think it was Olympiacos is where she was. Certainly well respected. And Alistair as well has been around the game for a long time. You've got to think perhaps, while he's got also all the experience, he's been at Fulham a very long time now. So we'll have to see if he's ready for a change. Look, there's going to be a long list of names linked with that position coming up. I think what's going to be very important for Friedkin is to pick somebody that's got some good history and experience, understands the club and where it's at right now, understands the politics of the Premier League and all the issues that we have talked about for many weeks now. And Everton, don't forget, have still got a third PSR hearing coming up, still to be resolved. So somebody's got to have all that understanding. But also, I think the crucial thing, apart from the club, is understanding Liverpool and the city itself and the fan base. Those are key things. Now, we've seen in Roma, there's been some issues around Roma recently. And perhaps is it the Friedkins' understanding of Roma and the culture of the fan base that could be a question mark? So there'll be many things they've got to look at, but those are some issues that they've got to look at the new CEO and somebody that can not just run a football club and understand spreadsheets and affect change, but they've got to get to the soul of the club and the understanding of the business.
And how important is it for a CEO these days to be kind of understanding of the legal process of the Premier League? We talk about it every week and how the legal side of things are playing such a big role on the day-to-day basis. Is the CEO someone who needs to be well-versed on that part of the game as well?
Unfortunately, that is the case now. Yes, it's something that you'd have said was not a major requirement just as recently as 2 years ago. But what we've discussed, as you say, for many weeks now, it is unfortunately becoming a fact that you've got to understand the whole legal process. You've got to understand how the law firms work. And this is a big grey area for many people in terms of understanding the fee structures, the way that you can be lured into it by certain lawyers in terms of huge legal bills. So you've got to be aware of all these things, as well as selecting your legal squad is becoming more important. And look, it's a very difficult new area, but certainly if you've been through some legal processes recently, that would certainly help you in terms of being able to be aware of what we're coming into now.
And Everton, who incidentally gave evidence in City's favor at the APT tribunal, have by far the softest loans in the Premier League. The highest soft loan, in the Premier League. Will this get in the way of Friedkin's takeover? How does he have to convert these? Does he need to buy them up? How exactly does that work?
Well, it's what he's doing is he is buying them up and will tidy those sort of soft loans up, and he will decide himself as to what sort of debt structure he wants to put in place. But all the indications are that he's going to be able to make that not really a concern for the club going forward. Look, it's going to be a tidying up process. He's already started it. He's acquired certain things. We're waiting for the final approval on the 777/ACAP debt to be resolved in the court in New York. and that process is the final piece in the puzzle. And then he can decide to restructure it as best as he wants to, but it gives him the freedom to do that with one owner and to structure the debt effectively.
And should Everton supporters be worried? Friedkin is also very busy with Roma, of course, having fired their manager, Ivan Juric, after just 12 matches this season. Obviously had the problems in the summer as well.
Look, I wouldn't say Everton fans should be concerned, but certainly the Friedkins themselves should be concerned, having lost Daniel De Rossi so quickly, and then Juric after 12 weeks. That's not great. I mean, they're looking for the third manager in this season. So there's something wrong with the process of hiring. And that's what they've got to look at. I mean, Everton's got its own history of mistaken managerial appointments, and we don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire. But hopefully that's where a new CEO could come in and help as well at the same time, giving some knowledge about the UK game, the Premier League, etc. I don't know how that decision was made about Ivan Juric in terms or getting rid of De Rossi. But whatever it is, there's very unsettled fan base, and certainly they've got to get this next decision correct. Are they going to be taking time out? Well, the actual Everton transaction right now is mainly regulatory, and that'll be mainly lawyers, I would imagine, handling most of that. So it wouldn't really take much of Friedkin's time himself. Obviously, he and his son, I believe, are heavily involved in trying to sort the Roma situation out. But look, it's they've got to leave it to people, the right sporting directors, the right people with the right knowledge, and make the right decisions this time. But it's becoming very important. So look, we'll have to see how much time it takes in terms of the Everton situation once they get further along in the regulatory process. But at the moment, they can juggle both things quite well, I think.
And what does this mean in terms of Sean Dyche's likelihood to stay at Everton? Clearly, Friedkin not afraid to get rid of managers that he's not a fan of.
Well, I think what they're doing at the moment, as we discussed about the CEO position, they've got to get the board and the chief executive and the right executive team in place first. Managers should be secondary. And it should be a decision made by people that are put in place with the right skills and the right experience. So we shouldn't be rushing to the managerial thought straight away. The top has got to be fixed first. You've got to have stability at the top. That will lead down. And in due course, there'll be decisions made. Look, I'm sure that Sean will hopefully turn the situation round in the next few weeks. Once we're over another international break, which is making everybody mad, then look, we'll see hopefully that Everton can. They've got some tough fixtures coming up, but hopefully they can turn the corner and we can get some stability and avoid a relegation battle again this year.
And Everton's new stadium is reportedly being considered for the Ashes test. How significant could that be financially for the club?
Yeah, when that headline came up, I had to take a second look because I thought they meant the cricket, but actually it's the Rugby League Ashes, and I think that would make sense. It would be a great location for the Ashes. I think also Rugby League over here in the UK has a thing called the Magic Weekend when they take about 4 games and they play them in the one site. I think it would be a great candidate for that. Everton is perfectly placed with Liverpool right in the heartland of the Rugby League community in the UK. So I think all those sort of things are favourites and would be great revenue sources again for the new stadium. Certainly there would be probably big kick-off situations before the season kicks off in August. There'd be fantastic test events as well. And as I say, it's close enough to the big heartland of Rugby League that we can expect big crowds. So overall, there should be a very good relationship between Rugby League and the new Everton Stadium, I think, going forward.
And lastly, with Everton, you mentioned earlier that third PSR hearing. When can we expect that hearing to take place? When will we know the result? When will Everton know the result? How is this all going to shake out? And when will we finally know if another points deduction is coming?
Well, right from the start on this, I was very surprised that they parked this from the last hearing and made it a separate hearing coming up. It's a relatively technical issue about whether interest was accrued against the stadium or not. And I don't know why that is taking so long, and why it couldn't be solved outside of a hearing in some way. This is a purely technical accounting procedure as far as I can make out. Now, I would have expected to have had a date for this already, so I would hope imminently, because this has got to be put behind us as soon as possible, unless it can be resolved without a hearing, and there must be a way to do that. Anyway, Let's see, but I think it's imminent. If not, it'll be very early in the new year. The actual, I think the backstop is May 24th next year is when everything's got to be resolved by. This should be done way before that, and I'm hoping it can be done uh, relatively quickly if we can find a way to let professionals decide on how this can be done.
And do you think Everton are getting one more points deduction?
I don't believe so. I think this is the auditors versus the Premier League, and the auditors are the experts. I think it's educating the hearing judges about the actual facts of the case and the numbers. I'm not party, obviously, to all the actual detail, but I would hope not. I would tend to think that this can be resolved without a points deduction.